Ladies and gentlemen, whites and blacks, straights and gays, welcome one, welcome all to the Circlejerk Podcast. I am your host, William, or Wildcat as you can call me. I am a complete degenerate, and I am being joined by someone who's probably more qualified to talk about history than I am, Mr. HMS
and
Vanguard.
is also a degenerate himself, so no need to put yourself down.
Alright, so anyways, today I wanted to talk about the Eastern Front. We can also talk about Ukraine. Russian Revolution, that's another thing. And that's pretty much it. Oh, Dresden. I want to talk about that too. So,
the bombing of Dresden.
yes. Do you know the Spanish translation of Mr. David Irving's book? On the title, it says Dresden, the real Holocaust. I just thought that was funny. I haven't bought the copy
Isn't
yet.
that the guy who's like a neo-Nazi?
Yeah, the neo-Nazi Holocaust denier.
That idiot.
Yeah.
Who believes everything that comes out Joseph Goebbels' mouth.
Yeah. Thank God his books are not that popular here. It gives me hope that Chile is safe from people like him. Unfortunately, I don't think countries like the US are that good.
Well, especially the US isn't, because half of them just... Well, they don't have any critical thinking skills. They can read, but they don't have any thinking skills and go, I believe this because someone else said it to me.
I guess. I
Like
was
Donald
actually
Trump not being a criminal.
Oh yeah, speaking of Trump, so yeah, they charged him, right?
Yep, on all counts.
Which accounts were those? Like corruption,
fraud, defacement, fraud, banking fraud, and tax fraud.
All right.
On all 32 counts, he was charged.
You think they're gonna send him to prison, or is he gonna get away with it?
Oh no, he's got too much money to go to prison. Rule of thumb is if you have someone in life, you won't get sent to prison. You'll just get a suspended sentence.
What about running for president? Do you think he can, or is it like illegal since he's been charged?
It's legal in the US because they never predicted that the US public would be so stupid to vote someone in who's a convicted criminal.
Oh. All right.
There's nothing in the Constitution that says he can't, so he can.
Okay. So, what do we talk about first? Dresden? Do we go back to that?
I mean, we could start off with the invasion of the Soviet Union because then that links into my point about Dresden and why actually it was a Soviet proxy bombing because the Soviets told us to do it so they could invade Berlin quicker.
Yeah, because it was a logistics.
That's for later.
All right. So anyway, what I wanted to talk about the Eastern Front was specifically General Plan Ost, which was basically their intentions in the Soviet Union and in places like Poland as well. So I'm trying to find an actual document on it, but for my understanding, we don't have one, and it's really just pieced together from what we know. But I have found some other documents that just talk about it. But anyways, it was.
Be my guest, then share them with me, and I can have a quick read through.
Sure. I'll send. I got two right here. Copy. I'll send it right now. So yeah, basically, anyways, it details the deportation, colonization, and basically just the exploitation of the Soviet Union in places like Poland. I think it also has some stuff to do with Czechoslovakia as well. So yeah, I wanted to make a video on that. Just thought it would be
annihilation of superfluous eaters. Oh, so they think the Cossacks and the Serbs and also all of the fucking Slavs were a bunch of fatties. I've really never heard of the starvation of Ukraine by Stalin.
I mean, Nazis, they tend to deny stuff like that, so I wouldn't be surprised if they just called it propaganda.
30 to 50 million, yeah, I've seen these numbers before. There was a lot with the German invasion of the Soviet Union. There's a lot that's lost because, let's just say, Hitler had a fancy of not getting tried as a war criminal by the end of the war and burnt everything he had ever planned. In the book I've got here by Anthony Bevor, which is Stalingrad.
Oh, cool.
Highly recommended. It's a actual book as well, where it's been peer reviewed and whatnot. It does mention the planning of Barbarossa with where is it? Utter den Linden. It was at the Soviet embassy. The urgent signal from Moscow demanded an important clarification of huge military preparations along the frontiers from the Baltics to the Black Sea. So yeah, hold on.
All right, I'll have to pick it up. I've seen the book in stores, just haven't gotten it yet. But I have read his book on the Russian Civil War and the Revolution. Really good.
Yes.
I can recommend that. Yeah. So
I was about to say I'll be studying the Russian, well, all of Russia for next year for the last unit of my A-level course anyway.
okay.
I haven't got to that yet though.
If there's one author
okay.
that I can recommend for that, it would be Orlando Figs. Specifically his book on the history of Russia, like if you just want a general overview. But he's got other works. One of it's titled Natasha's Dance, which is a history book on Russian culture. I have not read that one yet, but I have read his book on the Russian Revolution. Also a very good one. It's like 1,000 pages, but it's good. It's worth it.
Well, that's good. You're reading plenty of books then. That's the one thing that you need to do to become a historian. Then
Just read.
I prefer using the term historiographer, because a historian implies you're finding new stuff, while a historiographer reads what other people's written and regurgitates it.
Yeah, I'm just copying what other people have to say.
Yeah, like Drakenfell, who's the god messiah of naval YouTube, is a historiographer with official ties to the USNI, which is the United States Naval Institute.
Yeah.
If you ever want to get books on, well, I think they've even got books on
South America? Wait, can you send me the name? Or can you just tell me again?
America, with the South American navies and the South American arms races.
Okay.
It's the USNI, United States Naval Institute. Use code DRAC for 10% off at checkout.
That's cool. Naval Institute, I'm checking out right now. Because I've seen some books written by Westerners, I believe, on conflicts such as the Beagle one, the Falklands, and stuff like that.
Yes.
Right.
I mean, I've got a book on the Falklands, but it's by the Sunday Times.
Yeah.
And then I've got Harry Rate 09, which is about, well, Harry Rate 09.
Alright. They really don't have much books on the Falklands here. Wish they did.
Really?
Yeah. It's kind of surprising considering the position that Chile took in that conflict. But I guess it's just a distant memory. Most people here, they don't really care about that war. But usually older generations, they do. They tend to have much stronger opinions due to the standoff between Argentina and Chile.
Yeah.
Alright, so back to the Eastern Front. Another thing that I forgot to mention was the starvation of people. Because when the Germans went into the Soviet Union, their number one goal was to defeat the Red Army. So the civilian population, they were put up to the sidewide. They were put on the sidelines. And basically, defeat the Red Army, take whatever you need. And one of the things that they needed was food. Because, of course, German logistics on the Eastern Front were not very good. So they just stole food. A lot of food. The center of logistics was in Berlin. And as such, once they got through Poland, the supply lines were getting thinner and thinner. And then you get to Belarus and Ukraine. During summer, it's quite, like we see right now, it's quite fine and flat and not marshy, but by winter, you can barely get a truck through. Yeah.
But I want to correct you with the reason for the German invasion. It's not to defeat the Red Army. While, yes, the Germans were ideologically...
Well, no, I'm not talking about
with the Soviet Union.
I'm talking about like the number one goal when going in. That was their number one goal: defeat the Red Army, because you can't do anything else if the Red Army is still fighting. That's basically what I was saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, their goal. You can continue with that. Sorry for interrupting you.
No, it's fine. The main goal of the German invasion was Lebensraum, which translates into living space, as most people will know.
Yeah.
And due to that, their main objective was if no one wants to agree with us, kill them. And the ones who do want to work for us, send them to the factories in Germany and they can go work on stuff like the BF-109 plants or, in some cases, the ME-163 plants. Please look at Lord Hardfrash's video on the ME-163. Very recommended.
All right. So yeah, I was just looking at that for that video I was planning, and I found some propaganda posters from the time period, 1943. And it's basically just saying, "Oh, look, let's conquer land and let's send people there." I just sent one to you. So it does seem that I guess the broader German public was at least somewhat aware of their intentions, and it's not like the Nazis really needed to hide any of this stuff, at least for the time, until they lost the war.
For the most part, I don't. With general publics in wartime, and especially in ones where it involves war criminals, I'm looking at you, Russia. It tends to be a thing of you can't directly blame them for the actions of a few.
Yeah.
But they are implicit in the actions of those people, because how the hell did they get into that position?
Exactly.
Why the hell was there no popular revolt? If the Germans were fine with what was happening to the Jews, they wouldn't have done anything, which they didn't.
Exactly.
Yeah, you had some small groups helping them or revolting, but they're very small. The broad German public was enthralled by the Nazis because they didn't believe in the Nazis' main policies, but they believed in... The Nazis were weird. Well, that's a different tangent. I won't go on. Basically, they just used national pride to overrule personal liberty. But when it comes to Lebensraum, the Germans believe them. Oh, most people know this already. The Germans have a fascination with eugenics and aliens, and they've always believed them better than everyone else. So when it comes to Lebensraum, and when it comes to the invasion of the Soviet Union and the eastern states, the Germans walk in not thinking, oh, we're defeating the Soviets to free these people who clearly have already been brutalized by the Soviets. Look at the starvation of Ukraine by Stalin. Was it 1934?
1933, 1934.
1933, yeah. And they didn't walk in thinking that. Yes, in some areas they did help, which is where the Azov battalion comes from, which the Russians love to hark on about these days, even though there was only a couple Nazi links to it. And besides, the Azov battalion these days is just a bunch of extremists who just want to kill Russians. But there were some collaboration groups, but this was the same in every state in Europe. When the Nazis walked in, look at the French. Vichy France. Look at the Italians. Well, they were just the Germans' little dog at that point because they've buggered up Greece. Look at Yugoslavia, Romania, anything. Even Sweden. And you get that in all of them. So when it comes to Lebensraum, and you get the invasion, and you get the collaboration groups, you still have that same brutalizing of the other peoples, especially, what's the religion? Orthodox?
Yeah, Orthodoxy, that's their religion.
Yeah, Orthodoxy religious peoples, and anyone who's a full Slav.
Yeah.
If you're a full Slav, the Germans think you're inferior race, you're a slave race.
Only second to Jews. That's what I believe.
Look at what happened in Imperial Russia, and just think of the Germans viewing themselves like the royal family of Russia, but the normal people of Russia are all serfs. They basically wanted to go back to that, and the serfs would work for free, blah, 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 blah.
Plant the fields and give them food. Wanted.
Yeah. And they were all expected to be able to live off of, I think it was... What was it? 1,200 calories a day? For most slave workers. If you worked on any of the special programs, such as the ME-163, you got a full 2,200 daily ration.
Hmm.
So yeah,
Yeah.
that's the whole thing about Lebensraum. It's basically just the Germans thinking, oh yeah, we need all of our Europe to ourselves, but we're going to kill everyone else so we can have it.
What kind of amazes me about that is like, who was supposed to colonize that area? Like, it's massive. Ukraine, Belarus, the Baltics, Central Russia, the Caucasus, those places are massive. Like, how on earth are they going to get people to move there? And like, why on earth would people want to go there? Like, Germany is a pretty nice place to live. I wouldn't want to go to Russia if I lived there. I kind of
There
just.
was, sorry,
Go on.
there was a few things which drew the German peoples out of Germany. My monitor's just turned off. There we go. I went on standby mode. There were a few things that drew people out of Germany. First of which would have been the fact that living in Germany wasn't very cheap, even in that period.
Really?
And most people wanted lots of, I think, especially in the city areas, if you're more rural, it's about the same cost as it would be living in those areas. But you also had the thing of Germany, in all of its history, has never had natural resources such as oil, and also all the coal supplies are awful. Like, look at why the German ships during the First World War were so much inferior to the British ones. They had awful coal, hence why you could see them for miles.
Rural Britannia.
But then, yeah, exactly. And there's more natural resources, and there's also just, well, when the further east you get, it isn't per se the more cold it is. It's just the same as the rest of Europe. It's just due to how we draw maps. It looks flat, but it isn't. There's a slight curve, of course, because the planet's a globe. And anywhere up Estonia way, you get less and less to grow with. But you also get more resources, such as which river is it? It's not the Net River. Where's my map?
It's a river in the Baltics?
Yes, it's the one that feeds from Moscow to the Baltic Sea. Where's that bloody map gone?
Wait, I'm checking on Google. Let's see. From Moscow.
No, it's
The Moskva River?
yes, it will be the one I'm trying to mean.
Alright, so it goes from Moscow to Riga, or
yeah, I think it goes to Riga.
okay,
But
it's
anyway,
the
yeah.
Daugava River. I think I pronounced that right.
So you get more natural resources around there, and as such, the Germans, who were always lacking resources and always wanted more room to themselves, because I think Hitler. No, I'm not going to say anything without actually knowing it for a fact, but I know it was part of Hitler's ideology that every German deserved a homestead, because in all of his propaganda, you see a German family with, what was it, 5 kids, 6 kids, blonde hair, blue eyes, blah, 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 all in a nice little house in the middle of nowhere. Well, to do that, you kind of need a lot of room. Well, there's plenty of room due east of us. There's just a bunch of people we've got to kill first.
They wanted,
so there you go.
They kind of envisioned more rural lifestyle, right? As like idyllic.
Yeah.
All right. I sent you another photo. Yeah. This one's of a little scale model of a settlement they wanted to build. You know, you can see the houses.
Nice. This is going to be pre-40.
I think so.
Rudolf Hess is still there.
I see him.
Himmler. Who else is there? Well, your army, because you don't have the SS uniform. You've got the leaves. Your army. That's a senior member of the SS because he's got a echelon. Well, yeah. I think what was this for again? Sorry, just what they planned for the German people in the east.
It's like it's a model that they made, kind of like to build settlements. Yeah. Most likely they intended
to basically what like the Israelis are doing right now.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, in Palestine with their those settlements.
Yes. I'm gonna get shot now. I've made that comparison. I'm gonna get shot by the what's the
Oopsie-daisy.
Israeli
Mossad.
special for
Mossad's coming for your ass.
The Mossad's coming for me now. Oh well, you only live once.
All right.
So, yeah, no, that makes a fair bit of sense. They would do planning like that because then they can start the manufacturing, but it just looks like a generic homestead with all the trees. Well, knowing the Germans, they probably haven't planned it well enough to realize, oh wait, we need different types of trees. Because they don't plan anything right, do they? Like their invasion. Ah, yes, let's do it in June when we've only got 6 months till winter. Not even 6 months till winter. 3 months till winter.
On 3 different attack axes.
Speaking of 11 days till which anniversary will this be? 83rd? 83rd anniversary of the invasion of the Soviet Union.
That's it right now? 83rd?
It should be, if it's 2024 and it happened in 1941. 83rd, I think.
That's a long time.
In 11 days.
You know, I'm genuinely surprised.
It was the 80th anniversary of D-Day the other day.
I know.
So
I'm genuinely surprised that there's still so many people from the war that are still alive right now.
There's about 400 left
From D-Day?
compared to 5 years ago from D-Day.
Oh, but I guess like in general, because I saw some article and it said that there was about 119,000 World War veterans still alive in the U.S., which, you know, is a lot lower than what it used to be, but that's still kind of a lot of people.
Give it a year or half.
Yeah. That's kind of sad, though.
It is. It's the end of it's the end of an era.
Yeah.
Because now we're at the point where oral history for the Second World War will die out. Because you won't have people who've lived through it warning younger generations of the things that caused the wars. This is going to be a tangent, but So, I've always believed in the saying, history never repeats itself, but it often rhymes. And right now, you're seeing a rhyme, just this time, instead of it being the Germans, it's the Russians. And you're also seeing an increase of the far right, both in the UK and in Europe as a whole, because they're believing the same, mind my French, but bullshit that they were told the last time. But instead of it being the Jews this time, it's the immigrants. But I don't know how to word it. So, in the UK right now, instead of it being the Jews being the enemy, because they're the one who are taking all our money, our benefits, blah, 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 blah.
It's the Muslims,
it's
the Arabs.
It's the immigrants, because they're all coming in. But the thing is, to an extent, before the Second World War and before the Holocaust, to the smallest of margins, you could say that was technically true, because a fair few Jews were bankers, and they made a shit ton of money from it and from the Wall Street crash. And then you get the same argument here in the UK, where the more outlandish people who are just racists, like they would be anti-Semitic back then, are saying, yeah, all immigrants are bad. But you get the more moderate people who are just looking at it all and going, there are a bit too many coming in, which is understandable. Well, I can't remember what it's like, 100,000 a year illegal immigrants rather than legal ones.
In the
There's
UK?
the difference. Yeah.
That's a lot.
Getting their help across the channel by the fucking French National Guard.
Do they actually help them cross?
Yeah, they escort them to our side of the water, and then the dinghies suddenly get into trouble. It's honestly funny. I say we just shoot them, not the people, the boats, before they get into British waters, and be like, well, it's your problem, France. Really, just screw the French.
Awesome.
That's where all of history's problems come from, and that's the end of my tangent. The French.
So down here in Chile, we kind of have similar issues with immigration.
Because
like
of the Venezuelans.
Yeah, I mean, Venezuelans, they're pretty nice people. There are lots of them who are here legally, but the unfortunate reality is that there is a large amount of them who are not here legally and who also get involved in crime. Not
Exactly, same thing here.
yeah, not too long
Just
ago,
not Venezuelans.
a few police officers were actually killed,
Hmm.
or just got in shootouts with gang members from Venezuela.
Doesn't surprise me. It's a failed state.
Yeah.
Who's got friends with Putin?
Do you think they're gonna get rid of him?
The Russians.
No, I'm talking
Well,
about
the
Venezuela.
Ukrainians. Oh. Yeah. I don't know. Depends if he tries pissing off the US another time. Then they'll go kick his ass.
Maybe. Feel bad for those guys, the Venezuelans.
Yeah. It's me with the Russians as people. Nothing against them. I don't hate Russians. I don't hate French people. I hate the countries. I hate Venezuela. I don't hate Venezuelan people. I don't like Iran, Iraq, Syria. I don't mind the people. That's the thing about all history. It's like talking about the Slavs and the brutalization that Stalin and the Nazis did to them. When you look at it numbers-wise, you don't get the human damage that was inflicted to them. But if you think as those numbers as individual people who all had lives,
It has an impact on you.
yeah,
Yes.
that's the one thing that history is losing, because we don't have that oral link to people anymore.
Yeah.
People who lived through the Holocaust, sadly, are going. And due to that, we're getting more and more and more divide between groups. Like, look at the youth in Israel compared to the older Israelis who have lived through persecution, actual persecution.
They're more
Then look at the younger Israelis who are more
radical, you could say.
What's the term? Zionist.
Yeah.
Because they think they're being persecuted when in reality they're being far from persecuted. They've just got to deal with a bunch of Muslims living next door, but they don't like that fact. And then they'll go, oh, but June 67, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, you beat them in 7 days.
Yeah. That's kind of one thing
anyway.
that I really noticed, like the human toll. And when you start thinking of the death toll as like people instead of just digits. Because when I was making that video on Pinochet, you know, I was kind of coming in it with like, oh, Pinochet, yeah, he killed people, but he fixed the economy. But then, like after that, my opinion just changed. Like, just the individual cases of torture, the murders, and of course the overall suffering that people endured. It just like I can't really look at it at Pinochet like how I used to, you know.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing about. I'm talking more socially now rather than doing my job and answering your questions on history. But that's the thing about history as a subject. You can know about history, but you don't live it. Not till you think about it. And that's what I mean by people not having critical thinking skills anymore. People can read a book, but they won't understand the book. They'll know the book, but they won't understand it. You give someone a book on economics, they'll read it and they'll be able to quote stuff from it. Will they understand why and what causes it? No. Give people a book on the Yugoslavian Civil War. Will they know what caused it? Yes, because it'll be in the book. But will they know the social factors that caused it? Yes, because it'll be in the book. But do they understand why those social factors were a thing? Rather than just thinking, well, why can't they all just be friends? No, they won't. You get the same with the invasion of the Soviet Union. You get the same with the brutalization that the Soviets did to Ukrainians now and in the 1930s. And even before that. And then you also get why well, no, I'm not going to comment on the Belgian Congo because that was a whole different can of worms. Absolutely horrific over there. But that's why you get stuff these days with people saying stuff, like especially on the internet. God damn, no one can actually understand a book, can they? Because they'll quote stuff, but they'll misquote it intentionally, either for propaganda purposes or for misinformation. Like, what's her name? Not Angela Merkel.
The Italian one?
No, the Swedish girl.
Uh,
The one who said you ruined my childhood. The one with autism.
Greta Thunberg.
Yeah, Greta Thunberg. Yeah. It's like I saw on Twitter the other day. People have quoted her saying, "You've taken my childhood," and put a picture of her next to an African child that's having to go get water. And then someone retweeted it and went, "No, you've misquoted it." And where the full quote says, "You've stolen my childhood, but others have it far worse." And the exact same happens with history books and anything historical these days. I know this is a tangent. I do apologize. We'll get back on topic in a moment. It happens with history these days because people use it as an excuse for their actions rather than learning from it and understanding why something happened. We only had 2 world wars because no one understood why the first one happened. Because we made a bunch of backroom deals, and then we shot an archduke, and then we didn't realise that maybe we shouldn't be all getting into a war drum. But the Germans didn't listen. They were too busy being all fuffy over the Treaty of Versailles.
They were coping.
Blame the French. Blame the French, may I add, because they wanted it that rough. So you can blame the French for the pre-World War, the pre-World War beta, World War One and World War Two. And by pre-World War, I mean the 7 Years' War. By World War One beta, I mean the Napoleonic Wars.
It's all the French. It's all their fault.
Which is why we should nuke France. Just saying.
How many nukes would you need to, like, completely glass the country?
Depends which nukes. If you're talking the largest nukes the Americans ever produced, you probably need about 30.
Tsar Bomba.
If you were meaning Tsar Bomba, probably about the same. Because the Tsar Bomba's it has a good, I say good, it's got a destructive area, which is quite large. But Castle Bravo, which, if I recall correctly, is the largest American nuclear bomb ever produced and dropped, has a similar one. If you wanted to get rid of France completely, may I put you towards Edward Teller, the creator of the hydrogen bomb, and his sundial, which was, what was it? 10,000 kilotons? No, it was in megatons.
Yeah.
I don't even think it was in megatons. I think it was more than that.
More?
It was like something stupid like 1,000 megatons of TNT. Sundial, Edward Teller. Let me just get out quickly. Sundial, Edward Teller. Oh, 10 gigatons.
How much megatons is that?
This would start fires as far as 250 miles, an area the size of France.
So what, we need one of those?
Yes.
Okay. How much would one
10
cost?
10 gigatons. How much uranium did it? That's a good question. Let me have a look. Yeah, so the B-83 is the largest currently deployed nuclear warhead by the Americans. Castle Bravo was 15 megatons. The Tsar Bomba was 50 megatons.
Alright. You want to keep on going about nuking France, or do you want to go back to the Eastern Front?
It's your podcast, Michael, sir.
Alright, Eastern Front. So yes, Dresden. You want to talk about that?
Sure.
Okay. So yeah, bombed the shit out of the city. Around 20... Was it 21,000 people who died?
I think depends on the source.
David Irving.
Yeah, 120,000 according to Joseph Goebbels, the notorious shit spinner.
Yeah.
If you look at other sources, you get a range of numbers. We will never know.
I think
because
it was
sadly, as much as I am a war peddler, and I'm not war profiteer because I actually don't have stocks in BAE systems, but I'm a warmonger. As much as I love the military-industrial complex, war is brutal and horrific. It should never happen, but sadly, it's human nature. But due to how we bombed Dresden, some corpses just burned up completely. We will never know. Because German records also went up in flames as quickly as the bodies did. Isn't that lovely?
Yeah.
But you had the bombing of Dresden, and you've got a range of numbers between, I think it was 80,000 to 120,000. It might be as low as 60,000 at the very least.
According to Britannica Encyclopedia, it's between 25 and 35,000 civilians. Though some sources, specifically Irving, go up to 100 and 250.
Yes. Yeah. You get stuff like that. I tend to go for the ballpark in the middle. I would say about 60,000 at the very most. If I'm being more realistic, it's probably about 40,000 civilian casualties. Not military, because let's just say, as much as people say Dresden wasn't a bloody military target, yes it was. It was a transport hub. And you had the I can't remember which German army it was.
Wait, can you hear my dog barking?
No.
Okay, good.
German army in Dresden. World War II. There was a German army retreating from the Soviets, and they were using that route, if I remember correctly. It also had a large industrial profile. Hold on, let's have a look. 110 factories and 50,000 workers supporting the German war effort. Right, so a way to break down. If you're a worker in a military factory, you are considered a target.
Really?
Because you're not a civilian worker, no. You're helping the war effort. And sadly, because war is brutal, you need to be dealt with because let's just say, well, you've kind of got to, hamper their means of production. Or it's just going to turn into a war of attrition.
Yeah.
That's
kind of unfortunate.
According to the RAF at the time, Dresden was Germany's 7th largest city and largest remaining unbombed. Dresden wasn't bombed till the bombing of Dresden. So there you go. We gave them 3 years apiece. And then we just gave it to all of them in about a month. One of the foremost industrial locations of the Reich. And this was described by the RAF. Night for the German High Command's Weapons Office listed 127 medium to large factories and workshops that were supplying the army with material. According to some historians, we all know which one, Dresden was not a contributor to the war effort. No. Shut up. So, according to the US as well, there was a poison gas factory, an anti-aircraft factory, a field gun factory, a optical goods factory, an electrical and X-ray factory, gears, electrical cages, and other stuff. So yeah, Dresden was a military target, if you ask me.
That's kind of unfortunate, though, that civilians get caught up in the middle of things. Like, I really don't like to justify civilian deaths, and even if, they were working in factories, I don't want to say that it was deserved, but it kind of is.
Oh, most certainly. I would never wish death upon anyone, but sadly, there's two sides to me. There's the side that is a humanitarian, and the side of me that understands that there is a cost to everything.
Yeah.
I had this debate with a colleague about the bombing of Dresden, and well, when you get to civilian casualties in that number, we gave to the Germans over the entire bombing campaign of Germany, 180,000 people died, if I recall correctly, which was something like 10 times the amount of people that died in the Blitz. 10 times. Now, the humanitarian side of me says, "Oh, that's awful." It's like the firebombing of Japan. That was awful, horrific fire. You think Dresden's bad? Look at Japan before the atomic bombings. That was a husk.
Specifically, like Tokyo.
But then, yeah, the firebombing of Tokyo by Curtis LeMay.
How much was it?
As I call him.
The death toll, was it like 110, 120? I'm trying to think.
I think it was. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it was very high, and you blame Curtis LeMay for that. Because firebombs. He was also one of the people who helped orchestrate the firebombing of Dresden, so he got his practice in on the Germans there and he got it to do it to Jats. But what was I saying? But then the militarist side of me says it's justified before someone shoots me. That's the side where it's like, well, my end goal is beating the Germans who are killing 6 million Jews by the end of this, and I want to win the war as quickly as possible. A few tens of thousands of German civilians for the lives of maybe 100, 200,000 Jewish people. It's like the feather and your soul way thing to see if you're going to go to hell or not. Nothing will ever be just or moral. Nothing. You've just got to think about it logically in some senses, and in this case, it was logical because it managed to let the Soviets push straight up to Berlin and take it because they wanted to cut through Dresden.
Yeah,
and they did. But after the war, the Russians used Dresden as propaganda, which is where all of these stupid inflated numbers come from.
I find that
the
funny.
Russians.
Out of all people to use that as an example of the West being bad, it was the fucking Russians to do that.
Yeah, it's not like they killed hundreds of thousands of people and raped hundreds of thousands of Germans and Slavs and Poles.
3 million Ukrainians died in the Holodomor? Nah, that's bullshit.
Yeah.
Never happened.
Or the sinking of the Wilhelm Gustaf.
That was worse than the Titanic,
ship.
right? Right?
Yes, it was. It was the worst maritime disaster in history.
Yeah. It was like a little concentration camp on water, basically.
Well, they were also using it to evacuate German civilians from Königsberg.
Well, I may be confusing this because I know that the Germans had a ship that they were using to detain prisoners. Is that the same one?
They were using the. I think that was Carl Gustav. I might be wrong. I think it's a Wilhelm Gustav. Gustav was a German military transport ship. Yeah, I was right. Let's have a look. Cruise ship rescues the Pegaway. Operation Hannibal. You might be thinking of something different.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. 9,343 men, women, and children.
That's a lot.
Mm-hmm. Blame the Russians. It was Soviet submarine S-13.
So, about the Soviets, like, what do you think? Who was worse, the Germans or the Soviets?
Now that's asking if what was worse, the firebombing of Dresden or the rape of Nanking. They're both horrific.
Yeah.
And there's no putting a label on which one's a better war crime, because they're all, in the end, they're all war crimes. Yeah. They're all brutal.
I'm kind of on the
people died.
I'm kind of on the side that despite the Soviets being like, you know, really fucking bad, you know, like they raped so many women when they went to Eastern Europe.
Same with the Japanese, same with the Americans, same with the Brits.
Yeah.
Well, not to the same. Well, the Japanese did it to an even greater scale because they're the Japanese. Nobody remembers any of that though, because no one bothers to read a book on the Pacific War. But the Americans were known to have raped civilians in some cases, but unlike the Germans and the Russians, we kind of had a thing for court-martialing people and hanging them.
Yeah. But anyways, I'm
So-
kind of on the side that despite the Soviets being evil, we were probably better off with them winning the war than the Nazis. Because think about it, we know how the Cold War ended. The Soviet Union dissolved. Lots of people, well, you know, they were no longer under communism.
It
Like,
would
yeah,
have been
sure,
a
they
thing
have
that
issues.
the Russians would have. Well, if we hadn't had the Soviet Union, it's not like they would have just laid back on their ass and just spread their legs for the Germans, would they? No, it would turn into guerrilla war. If the
Yeah.
Soviet Union had collapsed, it would have just turned into a guerrilla war that the Germans are trying to fight. And then they get fucked spending half the resources over there. And it's not like I hate that thing. It's not what you said, but it's the general argument of World War II would have been lost if X didn't do Y. It's all a culmination of different things. Nothing will ever be won, especially the Second World War, by one factor. Yes, Britain was on its knees in June 41. We had lost the Hood. We had lost the French. We had lost Greece. We had lost Crete. We were losing in North Africa. We were losing in the Pacific. Well, no, we actually weren't losing in the Pacific by that point. That was December 41. We had been losing trade. The wolf pack of the Germans was ripping our convoy fleets to shreds. We were on the brink of starvation.
But that wasn't enough
And then,
to
the
defeat
Soviet
Britain.
Union gets invaded. Whoop-a-dee-doo. Suddenly, the war gets better. No, it wasn't. The war didn't get better until 1942, when the Americans were involved, and then we started suddenly getting a ton more trade, and a ton more resources, and a hell of a lot more convoy escorts, because the Americans, number one, lent a destroyer for bases in 41, gave us a fair few horrible, but still useful Clemson-class destroyers, and then then you get Lend-Lease, where the Americans basically just give us guns for free. And they also gave a ton to the Russians, so there would have been no Soviet victory if it wasn't for the Americans, because what they're going to do? Punch the Germans to death?
Nah, they'll just charge them with their bayonets and scream, "Ura!"
Well, they would have run out of people. Half of Russian logistics was propped up by American trucks. Half of Russian tanks propped up by British and American tanks. For God's sake, the Red Air Force loved the P-39 Cobra. No one. I've always hated the thing that one country is better than the other, because I'm a bit of a federalist. I quite like the idea of at some point in my lifetime that this world will be united as one and we can go to the stars in some sort of Star Trek. Please, someone post in the comments if you get that reference. And the idea that we work together to beat the most horrid bastards in history. You're gonna have to censor a lot of this.
I don't think I will.
We've fought together to defeat the Nazis and the Japanese and the Italians as a united nations was the greatest achievement. And then all the propaganda that came out afterwards due to the Cold War. No, it was the Americans that won it. And then now you've got a generation of Americans that have grown up knowing that their country is the best because X, Y, Z. Now you've got a generation of Russians thinking their country is the best because X, Y, Z. Same with the Brits, same with everyone. Because we can't admit that it took effort as a world to defeat the torrent of evil. So yeah, that's that.
Yeah, that's kind of sad. I wish we could all be friends.
Sadly, we're all a bit...
Actually, I'm gonna go back to that other point. For as bad as the Soviets were, it was better that they won than the Germans. Alright, so... Ooh. I want to talk about one thing that's been kind of on my mind, and it has to do with Holocaust denial. Like, I like the
Oh,
psychology,
great.
the psychology behind it, because I really do not understand it. Like, a lot of these guys will say, "Oh, this didn't happen, but I wish it did." Like I don't get it. Why don't you just say it did? And then they'll say, "Oh, the Germans, they weren't bad. They never did anything." Meanwhile, they hang out with people who, are saying death to Israel and all that other stuff. Like, I just don't get it.
So, with all of that, which is a bit out of my field, but I can put my 2 pence on it. With anti-Semitism, it's mostly linked to people's self-centeredness. You look at back in the 1920s, 30s, and 40s. You've had the end of the First World War, which some people blamed on the Jews somehow. I don't know. Then you had the Roaring Twenties, where everything's fine. Then you've got the Wall Street crash, and suddenly a bunch of Jews are making a ton of money because they hedged their bets. Right? Oh, I kind of don't like these guys now because they've got a ton of money while I'm here trying to feed hand over fist for food for my family. It's more of a thing of it's us versus them. That's what causes Islamophobia and anti-Semitism and sexism.
I'm kind of talking about the denial part of it. Like, a lot of those guys, like David Irving, for example, like, he's an anti-Semite. He does not like the
because
Jews.
they're all fucking idiots.
But like, why don't they want to admit that it happened?
Because they've never actually been to Auschwitz, have they?
Probably not.
They don't want to admit it happened because they think that Hitler was cool and all of Hitler's Wunderwaffens were cool when they weren't. 6 million Jews died, and a hell of a lot more people died in a pointless war that he caused. Yet people will drool over the most stupid, the most stupid of things that he did. Like the fact he was a vegetarian. Some people say Hitler was groundbreaking because he was the first leader that was a vegetarian. No, it wasn't, first off. And number two, really? You're giving praise to Hitler?
They don't want to admit they're the bad guys, you think?
Yeah. Anti-Semitism and Holocaust denial is just a thing of people not wanting to sympathize for a group. So when you get to stuff like the Holocaust or what else? The Night of the Long Knives, and you get older generations especially who think they've gone through thick and thin and they think they're right. They'll get in their heads when they're younger, no, it didn't happen, because they'll heard someone said it was a rumor. Because that was what the propaganda was saying. Because propaganda's a two-way street. You can give it and you receive it. So a lot of those ideas were from that. And some people, because of how ignorant they are, refuse to believe something that bad could happen because of one man. Well, it wasn't one man, it was an entire corrupt system. So that's my 2 pence on that.
I mean, I guess you have a point. I mean, I honestly don't know the exact reason. Kind of want to find it out. I think it would be an interesting idea for a video. So yeah, speaking of videos, I haven't checked out your channel in a little while. I haven't really been using my main account.
I noticed that.
Yeah. So yeah, how's everything going there?
It's all going quite all right, in all fairness. Not had much time to do much other than college work and a lot, but I got a bit used to it quickly. Also, I found a really funny German party poster.
Really? Send it.
What does it spell?
Fap.
Free German Workers' Party. Or... Hold on. Friedlichkeit Deutsche Arbeiterpartei, abbreviated FAP, was a neo-Nazi political party in Germany It was outlawed by the Federal
Asian.
Ministry of the Interior in 1995. It was founded in 1979. What a fucking name.
That's funny.
Sorry.
I mean, I heard Hitler was a bit of a horny bastard, so maybe he had something behind
he was
that.
Gay.
Ernst Röhm moment.
Yeah, quite literally.
That's kind of funny. Gay Nazis.
Oh yes, most definitely.
Mixed race Nazis. That's also kind of funny. We got a lot of those guys down here. Maybe not specifically Chile, but like Mexico, I've seen.
Yeah.
Alrighty, shit. What else? Oh yeah, Russia. Yeah, you said you wanted to read about Russia, right?
Yes, I'll be doing it next year anyway for my A-level, and while I'm doing that, I'll also be doing my not dissertation, my coursework, which is an essay on anything I really want to do, and I plan to do it on something to do with naval power. I'm not sure what question I'll specifically answer. It'll more than likely be along the lines of what was the influence of naval power to winning the war.
Why don't you talk about a myth?
I can't, because that's going. It needs to be something where I can give a yes, no, maybe answer. It can't be something where it's talking about possibilities.
All right.
And besides, there's not many myths you can really bust with naval history, other than the fact that the Bismarck was a shit ship. The Yamato was an awful waste of investment and resources, where you could have built about 4 more Unryu carriers with that much steel.
Or supply ships.
Yeah.
Yeah, they really did not have many of those. The mercantile fleet for Japan was not very good.
It was alright till the Americans started sinking it.
And they didn't really even protect them that much. Or at least from what I've read. The rescords weren't good. Alright, so back to Russia. I'm planning on making some videos about the Russian Revolution. Like, I've already got one. Then I made the one on the Potemkin, which I saw that you shared it. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. I saw it the other day, and I remember the story of the Potemkin. Yeah. Very funny.
Do you like it?
Most people only remember. Most people mainly remember Aurora as the main figure of the revolution
from 1917.
Yeah, I know Potemkin was in one of them, and I also know the fact that the Soviets eventually got rid of them.
Yeah, Stalin didn't like the movie. He banned it because he thought it was like a shit. I forgot the exact reason, but it had something to do with like counter-revolutionary things. I guess the overall story of soldiers, or sailors in this case, rising up against oppressors just, it didn't go well for him, considering who he was.
Yeah.
But did you see the video?
I didn't get a chance to watch all of it. I watched a little bit of it. I will be honest.
That's fine.
I've been that swamped with things to do recently.
That's okay. So how's college going? Or university?
Fucking horrific. I'm getting distinctions in a lot of my coursework, and a lot of it's just painful, and I don't have any time for myself.
All right.
So yeah, that's fun.
I was planning on going to Canada for education, but I honestly don't think I will, because I'm getting the certificates that I need to basically prove that I have a high school education. Like, it's a pain in the ass. I've been trying to do that, and I just haven't gotten it. And to be honest, I really do not feel like moving countries again. Like, when I went from Canada to Chile, that was an awful year. Just terrible. I am glad I was just a little kid who didn't understand anything, because if I did, I probably would have lost my fucking mind. And I do not want to repeat that experience, especially being far away from my sisters, my parents, my animals, my friends. Like, I don't want to lose that again.
That's understandable in all entirety of it.
Yeah. So I'll probably stay here. I know I'm smart enough to get into a university, so that's good.
Yeah. Just have a look for whatever ones you've got around you.
Yeah, there's a few in Santiago. I actually did get accepted to one of them, but since I was planning on going to Canada, I didn't go. I'm gonna see if I
Hmm.
can get into the Universidad Católica, which,
Yeah.
according to them, is ranked in the top 100 in the world. Probably
Hmm.
probably one of the best in South America. I don't know exactly, but I'll see
Yeah.
if I can get in there. If not, it's fine.
Yeah.
There's plenty of other good ones here in Chile, and it's not that expensive, or at least compared to the U.S. Uh, According to their website, it was only about $5,000 a year.
Yeah.
Which how's the pricing in Britain?
9 grand a year.
Uh,
Hmm.
I thought it was gonna be like way worse
Fun.
than that.
No, we have to pay it back eventually. We get student loans,
All right.
which is fun.
So how much more years do you got in university?
Well, I've already finished this year. I've got 1 more year, and then I've got, I think, 3 years of uni after these 2 years. So that'll be fun. Really, really, really fun. Yes, money. Money, money, money.
Well, good luck with that. Hope it goes well.
Believe me, I'll need it.
All right, shit. What else did I have on my list? Russian Revolution. What do you know about that?
Not much.
Oh,
Other than the slight things of the British involvement in the Red versus White War,
yeah.
where the Royal Navy just rocked up and went, "Shut the fuck up," and left.
They had a fleet in the Caspian Sea.
Hmm.
That was funny.
And it was one of Admiral Cunningham's first key roles. He was a captain on one of the destroyers, which helped split up where the Germans were still being assholes to the Russians.
They also launched a raid on Kronstadt. Have you heard about that?
If I recall correctly, yes. I think I have.
They sunk a few battleships. Maybe not necessarily
Yes.
battleships, but a few of them. Unfortunately, about half of them died in the raid, which is unfortunate.
Ah,
Yeah.
that's not very good at all.
Could have been worse. Still pretty impressive, honestly.
I mean, you get stuff. What was the Japanese raid? Was it Port Arthur? I think it was Port Arthur.
And the Russo-Japanese War?
Where you get raids like that, where you can get little to no casualties, but then you get other raids, such as the raid on Dieppe, where
Yeah.
you get absolutely,
Plummeled.
well, I don't want to say shafted, but rolled over. Like you're not even there. So, naval base raids are usually that sort of kind of worm.
It's like a coin flip. Either goes well or it doesn't.
Yes.
So if you want, we can talk about Ukraine now.
I'm here to talk about whatever you want to, bud.
Alright, so Kharkiv. The Russians were trying to
Christ.
punch in through there.
They failed miserably.
I know. I was initially worried that they would like slowly creep up onto the city, but like they haven't moved. It's been like what, 2 weeks? And they haven't gotten anything out of it. Just a few small towns.
Hmm.
And shouldn't the F-16s be arriving soon?
Hopefully. If they do, I hope they kick the Russians' ass.
What about the
My main thing to look forward to.
the Mirages?
What was it? The Mirage 2000Ds?
I think so.
I can't remember what Mirages the French are giving them. I know they're the ones which can carry nukes.
Cool.
Yeah, because the Vivaldi Flaunt, the French are all back and no bite because they won't actually go through with stuff.
It's the Mirage 2000 /5. I think that's how you say it.
Yeah,
combat aircraft.
dash 5.
Dash.
Yeah, those are an older platform, but they're still more than capable of dealing with what the Ruskies have got.
And have the Ukrainians received any training for them?
They would have done, yeah.
Okay. Because I mean, it's been like what, a year of training Ukrainian pilots to fly the F-16. I imagine it would be a
Yeah,
year
I
to train
believe
them.
so.
Probably be a year for them to train on the Mirage 5. So if they haven't started, then it's going to be a while till they get there. But I'm hoping that they have at least some training so they can get it going.
Yeah.
And who provided
That'll be the best thing to look forward to.
Who provided the
Is
most
just
F-16s to
I
Ukraine?
think it was the Dutch. Yes, I think it was the Dutch.
Yeah.
What am I looking for? But yeah, no, Ukraine right now is just turning into the First World War. It has been for the past couple of years, but it's more so the thing of
Stagnant front lines, trench warfare.
Yeah.
It kind of does remind me of the First World War on the Eastern Front. Like,
Yes.
yeah, it's not moving that much, kind of static. You got muddy trenches, but every now and then it does kind of move.
Oh, yes, definitely.
I just want it to be over.
Nothing in life's simple. You will never get a simple thing like that.
I know, and it's sad. I've always wanted to go to Russia, but I don't think that's going to be possible.
I just wouldn't go to Russia anyway. It's awful there.
Well, I would not want to live there. I wanted to go, just kind of like see some locations. I want to check out Moscow. I want to check out the metro there. But
well, I've heard that the Moscow metro is actually quite advanced, just due to how the Russians were with their development and the fact it was a socialist country. So of course they're going to put money into public transport.
Yeah, and it's nice and deep. Like it could actually hold hundreds of thousands of people for at least 3 months underground.
Yeah, it's why Metro exists as the game series.
Yeah, the books as
Fantastic. Well. Yes.
Have you read them?
I have not read the Metro books, but I've certainly played the games.
Okay, the games are awesome. So speaking about metros, the one in Santiago is pretty good. I like taking it.
I never have it. Well, I've been to Belfast. I've never been on a metro myself.
Really?
Nope. There's none around me. The largest city with a metro is so there's a few metros in the UK, but I've not been on any of the ones nearby me. Oh, this is going to annoy me now. Can't find the bloody picture. Oh well. But yeah, no, with public transport and stuff like that, it's always a thing of you want to have it. Like,
yeah. But they're really good.
In the United Kingdom, we lack a lot of public transport.
I mean, good public transport could take millions of people to their places every single day. Like, that's
rather than everyone taking a car.
I know. I fucking hate driving in the city. Like, even on a good day, it's fucking terrible. And so many people in Santiago use the metro every day. So back in 2019, when they raised the prices on it, everyone lost their shit.
Yeah. That's understandable.
Yeah.
Well, in the UK at least, it's already expensive to use any form of public transport, so most people just don't.
That sucks.
And most of the time the service is so bad, there's no point.
Alright.
So, yeah.
You got any other ideas? I think I kind of exhaust my ideas.
I don't really think I've got anything else I can talk about without reading more.
Alright. I mean, we've been going on for about an hour and 9 minutes. That's pretty good.
Yes.
We can just end it right here if you want.
It's up to you.
Alright. Yeah, because I'm out of ideas. So anyways, thank you everyone Thank you to the 3 people who are subscribed to my channel who will probably never see this, at least till the end. Hope you have a good day. I'll link Vanguard's channel in the description. And see you until next time. Bye-bye.
Verräter! Von allem Anfang an bin ich so verraten und betrogen worden! Es ist unmöglich, unter diesen Umständen zu führen.
Look, Pim, I know it's our job to help this guy and everything, but I think this guy's a lost cause. He's obviously made up his mind. Why don't we just cut our losses and get out of here?